go.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. I am Jonmichael Butler from the Multifarious Man podcast. I'm here on behalf of the Sharp Sexy Sisters Conference coming up this Sunday, December 13th from 2 to 5. The free all access pass, you can find it at bit.ly at SYBASSSDEC free. That's SYBASSSDEC free. I am one of the professors or teachers, as you might say, from Sustain Your Biz Academy. And coming up, of course, this weekend, we have our empowerment conference. It's not too late to join up. Definitely check on, use that link to access it and see the additional passes that we have to actually be able to access the classes. But we have a wonderful event coming up, and we're looking forward to you coming out. Reason I am on today is to talk about interview basics. One of the things I do as a podcaster is I actually bring people on the show to interview them. Now, my background is I've spent about 20 years in finance, but I actually went to City University of New York, and have my degree in communication, film, and video. So I'm a married father of two teenage girls. One college age, one high school age. And for the past 5 years, I've been doing the Multifarious Man podcast. It started out with me just talking about my love of books, films, movies, television shows, artists, and just giving my take on it, letting people know things that I enjoy and things, what they should actually check out. Now, I'm originally from Queens, New York. More particularly, I'm from Laurelton, Queens. And that is actually where I met Dr.T. I'm actually good friends with her younger brother. So we grew up where literally my house was on the next blocks behind their house. So we go back from, being knee-high to a grasshopper. So Dr.T is like my big sister. So I'm really excited to join her as part of this entrepreneurship, and especially the Sustain Your Business Academy and the Sharp Sexy Sisters Empowerment Conference. This quarterly conference, this one that's going to be on Sunday, it's Voice of the Brothers. So I'm really looking forward to be a part of it. So when we talk about interview basics, when you're watching an interview, whether it's on television or you're listening to an interview in a podcast, you have to understand that there's going to be some homework that's done in advance. It's not just simply getting someone on the show and just throwing questions at them and asking them, to answer on the fly. Not to say that there aren't some questions that they may not know about in advance, but that's not really the point. The point of when you're interviewing someone is you want them to feel comfortable, but you have to do your homework. So, my basic tip number one is you have to do some sort of pre-interview or basic homework to get background, because what are you going to talk about if you don't know anything about the person that you're interviewing them? Whether it's reading their background on their website, learning about their product, or if they're a writer, having some knowledge of their books, or just sending them a basic questionnaire of basic questions that you might want to ask. Because what this does is it kind of helps you build your rapport and to make it easier, not just for you, but for them to make the interview feel like a conversation. That's, if you think about over the years on probably your favorite shows, we're not talking about investigative journalism, where you might find it on 60 Minutes, but even the journalists on 60 Minutes or shows like that, they actually have to do some background because they want to make sure that they can actually sound like they've actually heard about the person that they're interviewing and know a little bit about them. This way, as your interview goes along, you build a rapport and the person that you're speaking to will feel more comfortable, and they don't feel like they're just talking off the side or just shooting from the hip when they're answering questions. And the benefit of having background information, what it does is if you ever get to a lull in the conversation, or if, things just start to quiet down, or even if the person starts, if someone talks a lot, sometimes interviews can be uncomfortable, because if you think about it, what's one of the things that people always say their greatest fear is? It's public speaking. Now, an interview is just another form of public speaking. So sometimes people are so worried about how they sound, how they look. So it's up to you as the interviewer to make them as comfortable as possible. So one example, if one time I did an interview years ago, and this is actually pretty interesting. So years ago at City College, as part of the film studies, one of the things that we actually would do is the film students would actually bring in theater students as part of the program to get practice on doing interviews or doing scenes. And one of the things that you learn is, even as actors that are also, you figure they're used to studying, they're used to performing, but sometimes that one-on-one interview can be uncomfortable because it's quite revealing. It's not like when you're on stage, when you're pretending to be someone else or portraying a character. When you're doing an interview, you're actually being yourself. So you're actually unveiling layers that maybe you're not comfortable with, or maybe you're guarded. So the key part of the interview is to try to make someone feel more comfortable. Now, if you've told the same story over and over again, maybe you've done other interviews before, maybe you have a neat anecdote. If you think about when you see someone on Conan O'Brien or, one of the late night talk shows, usually they kind of have that back and forth banter. But what you'll find is the interviewer that is the most successful is the one that can kind of, bring out maybe things they talked about during the pre-interview, or remind the person of the story, because it's very easy when you tell the same stories a lot. You don't remember who you spoke to or who you told the story to. I've been married for 20 years. And one of the things you find being married for that long is the stories that you have with your spouse. You may have told the same story over and over again, but in different scenarios, you may have told it differently, or as my wife likes to tell me, you might misremember. So the key point is you just have to be an attentive listener and call back to points that maybe someone was talking to. An example is someone might be telling a story of how they came up with the story idea and they get stuck. And you can actually hear it, or if it's a video interview, you can actually see it through someone's body language. That's where you take a point to interject and go, well, tell me about a time X. And what that's going to do is it's probably going to jog their memory. And then suddenly the storytelling starts to kick back in and you get a better interview that way. So that's another point I can bring to you. So aside from doing your homework and getting that background information, it's really important to actually listen. Now, one of the things that most people do is they're only listening to formulate a response. But if you want to be a successful interviewer, you need to actually pay attention to the cues and the little different things that someone's telling you, because sometimes it's quite apparent that a train of thought that you're going down may be making someone uncomfortable, and you don't want to keep pushing. Like I said, we're not, when you're doing interviews, you're not gotcha journalism, you're not being an investigative reporter. You're really just giving someone an opportunity to tell their story and, let other people know about their business, about their product, about, a show that they have coming out, or just general information that they want to share with your audience. Now, it's a lot that I had to say there. But you find over time you get more and more comfortable with it. And the only way you can do it is to practice. Another key point is to remember that they're the story, not you. The best interviews that you'll probably can think of over time that you've seen on TV, that you've heard on the radio, are the ones where you don't remember the host. You actually just remember the story that the person being interviewed tells you, because that's the greatest gift that you can give as an interviewer, is to not be part of the story. You're actually, the purpose of it is to showcase someone else. So if you're the interviewer and it becomes all about something that you said, or, the way you took over the whole interview, you're not going to have people want to actually come back and spend time with you and actually share their story. But if you give them an opportunity to talk about themselves, to talk about their product, and kind of get out of the way, you're actually going to have a beneficial relationship that takes place during that interview. And it's going to pay dividends in the long run, because people want to talk to people that give them a platform, make them feel comfortable, and make it seem like you're just sitting on a couch talking to your best friend, talking to your cousin. Because that, at the end of the day, those are probably my favorite interviews, are the ones that turn into just discussions, two people talking, and it just so happens to either be a camera or a tape recorder actually in the background. One of my favorite interviews, it's actually funny. It was actually a recent one that I did last week. So many years ago, I was an intern for a PR firm called Blow Up Media. So this was in the early 90s, not to age myself, when I was in college. And through a mutual friend, I met a gentleman named Vince Carroll, who had a multimedia, it was called Blow Up Media Relations. And basically, he was a marketing public relations for hip hop artists, for rock groups. So one of the groups he actually represented was the Spin Doctors, which for some of us, they had a big hit in the 90s. But basically, the way the interview came about is, he was coming out with a coffee company, Third World Premium, and he was actually going to have a TV show. We hadn't really spoken in years and had reconnected through Facebook. And he knew I had the podcast, and I said, hey, let's just get together and talk. We started the interview. It ended up, instead of just talking about his company and what was coming out, we basically went back in time and not only talked about how we met years ago, but we also talked about how the history of marketing in hip hop and music and his place in it. So it was a good opportunity to actually walk down memory lane, have a history lesson, and then actually it led us till today. So it was actually a wonderful experience. It was unplanned. And I think that was the best part of it for me. It was the unplanned part of it. I knew we were going to talk about the coffee company. I knew we were going to talk about his new TV show that was coming out. But the best part was that reconnection and actually a history lesson that was unexpected. So it was a gem that came out of the interview that wasn't planned. But I was able to do it and make it happen, was one, because I did my homework, one, because we built the relationship. So it's really good to make sure that you take advantage of your connections, whether you're podcasting or whether you have a business as an entrepreneur. I think a lot of times people are afraid to tell people about their product or service. We're not all Fortune 500 companies who have a huge marketing budget, who can sell print ads, who can have television commercials, hire people to do jingles. When you're an entrepreneur, most of your business starts with word of mouth. Even before that, it starts out with family and close friends. So when, what I see, and with my podcast and what people can do with their podcasts, if that's a route they want to take, it gives you an opportunity to network, to build a customer base, and actually get the word out. So me as a podcaster, I have a platform that I can share with entrepreneurs to spread the word on their business, to reach my audience that maybe they wouldn't have reached before, and vice versa. Now I have an opportunity to spread the word about my podcast and what I have to offer to their audience. So it's a mutually, you basically have a mutual relationship. So it's not like you're using someone. It's no, I'm here to promote what I have. You're promoting what you have. So definitely make sure you follow me on Facebook at the Multifarious Man Podcast, on Instagram at Multifarious Man, and also on Twitter at Multifarious Man. Definitely check out the Multifarious Man podcast. It's actually available on all major podcast platforms. So if you do a search in Spotify, in Google Play, iTunes, all of them, you can just do a search and find it. And also you can find me here with the Sharp Sexy Sisters. You can find me with Sustain Your Biz Academy. So it's definitely an opportunity to learn more about it, learn more about podcasts, download the show, spread the word. And again, entrepreneurs, there's an opportunity for you to actually use that platform and media to actually spread the word on your business. Again, the main reason we're here today is to remind you this Sunday, December 13th, coming up, the Sharp Sexy Sisters Empowerment Conference, brought to you by Sustain Your Biz Academy. Dr.T is the host on that day. We're going to have Shay Sams and also Dr. Norma McLaughlin. And we're also going to have a treat. We're going to have some music by Carl Lewis on sax, not the Olympian, but the Carl Lewis, the sax player. So definitely come out. Don't forget that the bit.ly address is SYBASSSDEC free. Definitely check the link, find out about it. There's a lot of opportunities. You can actually then also find links there that will tell you about Sustain Your Biz Academy and everything that we have to offer. Now, for myself, during the conference on Sunday, I'm going to be talking about the ABCs of podcasting. So I'm going to tell you the basics that you need to get a podcast up and running from start to finish. Very simple, but very in-depth in terms of giving you the information you need, basically from what I've learned from podcasting over the past 5 years, to kind of eliminate some of the guesswork for you. So we look forward to you coming out on Sunday to hear what we have to say. That's kind of it. That's kind of all I had for today. Interviewing basics. Again, check back on this streaming channel all this week. We'll be live at 5 every day this week. Also, Dr.T has Talk with Sisters Tuesday. I think I'm saying that right. So definitely look out for the notifications telling you when the actual streams will start. And we'll look forward to seeing you again. Thank you again. I'm Jonmichael, Multifarious Man Podcast. And again, this Sunday, Sharp